a part 2 of 2. My an alarm went off on my phone. I woke up early, so this is not a split into 2 parts. This is my alarm dinged and I had to stop filming. So this is a part 2 of 2 that's not actually split into 2 for uploading purposes. So continuing where I left off. Yeah, just being cognizant of if one's speaking the languages of one ancestor or not. And well, it's kind of always inappropriate to, there's a timeliness component of that. Eventually, if one doesn't return to one's own language or language of one's ancestors, there's a bit of pointing fingers at someone else about being unethical, becomes inappropriate, and just reflects poorly on the person speaking, pointing fingers because they're not even speaking the language of their ancestors, which shows at the very least that they don't care about their own family. And so Fina is in this rage against Italy because think Italy had 1 colony in Africa and France had 40. And so it's trying to frame Italy as being the biggest colonizer of Africa, the biggest violator of human rights. And so Fina's doing that so we all know the Swiss are dirty with money. They have dirty money. And that's kind of one of their biggest forms of human rights violations these days is money laundering and other kind of financial crimes. And so what happened is they're framing this Italian Swimming Federation president for a crime he didn't do. See, the Swiss withheld money, then charged again. They said that it was this Italian guy. And then Fina's like, we're going to ban him so that he can't run, or she can't run, they can't run the International Swimming Federation. Or not International, Italian Swimming Federation, ISF, but in Italian it's FIN, F-I-N. Yeah, so Federazione Italiana Nuoto, or some Nuoto. At least I'm trying. Italian's okay. It's not the language of my ancestors. My ancestors came from ancient Rome. So Roman, the actual millennia old language, not the new Italian. So learning Italian would not be learning a language of my ancestors. Learning Roman would be. Yeah, but so maybe not moving to Italy. We want a place where my soulmates and I can live and not have clean people framed for crimes they didn't do by dirty people and people with a history of human rights violation like the French. And it's it's kind of a perfect example of why are they holding the Olympic Games in France for a 3rd time in 2024? This is kind of maybe they should start choosing clean locations, or at least making it up to people. So considering the France enslaved the majority of Africa, its colonies, perhaps making it up to them by letting Africa host, if they even want to. But instead of being put it in the slave owner country, right? And the French are notorious for being the biggest slave owners. I mean, there's still slave owners in Africa. The Africa that was brought to the United States of America, the African American slavery, there was slavery on all continents, but Africans were slave owners too. And there were Africans and people of African descent who were slave owners of people my skin tone in the United States of America. And they're just not talked about that much because politics kind of controls what movies are made in Hollywood, and people aren't really ready for that. Oh yeah, there were European slaves with African slave owners in the United States of America. Fact. That does not mean people want to hear about it. Especially those of African descent. What? Justice? Be served? And point out what they did to people of European descent, especially African men, to slave owners, to European women slaves? Come on now. That kind of justice isn't really sought after whatsoever by political movements today spearheaded by people of African descent. Yeah, but that's just another update on the dirty world of swimming. That's right, the international governing body. And then there's the International Olympic Committee, which is not all sports, right? It's an event as opposed to a sport. So event organizers just being cruel and being we want to make ourselves relevant the three for like the Summer Olympic Games. So the 3 years the games aren't coming, make themselves relevant by being extremely political and promoting human rights violations and violating human rights. So that's what they do. Yeah, I don't know if the International Olympic Committee has ever had a good reputation in my lifetime. I think that's like the dirtiest international organization. The games have gone downhill, but the International Olympic Committee itself is not once, even by the people who wanted to compete at the Olympic Games, they were like, no, that's dirty, man. That's rigged. And then none of them went on to the Olympic Games. So I guess there's that. And those are the people who swam NCAA Division I swimming and diving. I was like, well, if the Olympic Games and the International Olympic Committee really are that bad, clearly they have some well, there's book smarts and then street smarts, and that's more on the line of street smarts. So that's my talking this morning. The sun is rising, but like not up yet.